Hello everyone, how is it going? Now in this video, I will be talking about how false dawns are to be expected on the OCD recovery journey and how not to get too disheartened by them and defeated by them. They are all part of the recovery process. They're all part of the marathon of the OCD journey that you have embarked on. So, false dawns. Now I had many false dawns. Moments where I thought I'd completely cracked it, or I thought I'd nailed it, or I thought like, yes, I'm in the clear now. I'm out of the woods. I'm recovered from OCD. And then OCD gave me a very polite reminder saying, hey, I'm still here. I'm still here. Don't forget about me. I'm coming in for Christmas. I'm coming in for your holiday. I'm going to try and ruin your vacation. I'm going to ruin your big wedding day. I'm going to ruin your birthday, right? And it will do that, okay? It will try and turn up the heat in big occasions, in big moments, in moments that you really want to feel present, moments that you really want to be engaged with, times that you really want to enjoy. So just expect that to happen. Now, I am not being pessimistic. I'm being realistic with you because we have to be realistic on this journey. We can't say, oh, yeah, you've been in 3 months, you're feeling good, well done, you've nailed it, off you go. Because that is simply not the case. That's not how the recovery journey works. There are many false dawns. There are many sort of false perceptions of how well you're doing because you feel like you've cracked it, you feel like you're out of the woods, and like I say, OCD hits you with that reminder that, hello, I'm still here. And that's fear of fear, because then you get scared of it coming back. You get scared of it playing a big part in your life again and disrupting your daily life. So when that happens, we have to just surrender. The worst thing you can do when it rears its head again, when you've had moments of doing well, when you had long periods of maybe feeling at relative ease and relative calm, is that you surrender, you embrace any feeling, you don't fight it. The last thing you do is fight your way out of a bit of a spiral, a bit of a wobble, a bit of a setback. You do not fight it, because then you get into that internal war with it. You get into that tug of war with your own brain. And what tends to happen is that you spiral even further. Okay? So when you feel it ramp up, when you feel it turn up the heat, you let it. You go, okay, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. Now, when those feelings have gradually calmed down, and that can take as long as it's going to take, there's no time frame, there's no deadline, there's no rules. It's not like, oh yeah, when you have a false dawn, it only lasts for 24 hours, so don't worry about it. It could last for a little while. Many wobbles of mine lasted weeks, even months. I have to be realistic with you. Even months, it felt like, oh my God, I felt like I've done it now. And it was like a month of quite extreme symptoms and quite, bombardment of intrusive thoughts, and the guilt was very high, and the shame was very high, and the worthlessness and the undeservedness and all the compulsions came flooding back in. That will happen. But what that's showing you, and this is where it's key, it is showing you what still requires work and attention and what still needs breaking down with your disputing, and where you still need to divert your energy with cutting compulsions, right? Maybe you need to face a fear. Maybe you need to do some exposures, right? But not in the moment. Not as soon as you feel it ramping up. Not as soon as you feel it coming back, because that becomes compulsive and that becomes a frantic chase for looking for that quick fix, looking for that way out, right? Later on in my journey, when I got very accustomed to false dawns happening, I got very good at dealing with them because I wasn't then frantically looking for a way out. Initially I was clinging, I was desperate to remain at peace, or to remain in the good spell that I was in. I was desperate to stay in that feeling, in that state. But the problem was, that led to me clinging in. That led to OCD digging its heels in. And that led to me fighting. And I spiraled even further. And it took me harder to pick myself up again and get back on track. So what I had to do was notice it coming in, acknowledge it there, and let it be. Let it play out. not get into that battle with it, not get into that fight with it, because you get into that internal mental fight. You wouldn't do that physically. You wouldn't stand in the mirror and have an internal fight with yourself, would you? But you wouldn't have external fight with yourself, a physical fight. But we do that internally because we're so desperate to get rid. So a big part of this is that internal surrendering, letting time pass, floating. Okay, as Claire Weeks says, Self-Help for Your Nerves, book number 2 on our reading list. Crucial, floating, not engaging, just letting it be there. Let it be there for Christmas Day. Let it be there for your birthday. Let it be there for the big occasion that you've got coming up on the weekend. Okay, do not fight it. Now, when we say foot off the gas in those occasions, we're not saying you never do any recovery work again. Please do not misinterpret that. Please do not think when we say, let it be there, we just do nothing and let time pass our whole life. No, because belief work is obviously still required because OCD is finding a way in. It's finding a way in through the cracks in the surface. So it's finding that grip. It seeps in there. Okay, so there's obviously work to be done, and it's highlighting to you the beliefs that are still faulty, the beliefs that require your attention with your disputing, but there's no rush. There's no urgency. You can't forcefully get rid of this. You can't forcefully change your rational beliefs because you feel a bit of a spiral coming on. Okay? And this is like a tactic that you embody and you deploy over time with what you do when that setback happens or when that spiral happens or when it turns up the heat. And what I would have done to listen to a video like this when I was spiraling would have been crucial, because I would have gone, oh, I just want to know what I do when I spiral, right? Because in that moment, as you're watching this video, I'm sure as you're watching this video right now, and maybe you are spiraling, maybe you feel like you've had a couple bad days, couple bad weeks, couple bad months, you're like, what do I do? And maybe you are internally fighting it. Maybe you are trying to punch it and get it away and go, get rid. Hey, let go. Let it happen. Let it take over. On the side with your structured disputing, with the healthier balance that you're aiming for, you still do your disputing. You still break it down. I'm talking if it's lasted for months or weeks, not initially, not like in the daily, as soon as it latches, you don't then dispute. But if it's still there and it's lingering for weeks and months, you still do your structured disputing on the side. You still break down your irrational fears, because the reason that wobbles happen is because obviously there is faulty perspectives there. But you can't forcefully get rid. You can't out-dispute your way out of a spiral, right? You can't just suddenly fix your way out. That's too controlled. That's too forceful, rushing to get rid. That will not work. Trust me, I tried that and learned that the hard way that does not work. Okay? And there is no shame. There is no shame in reaching out for help if you're struggling with a bit of a setback, with a false dawn moment, where you feel like you've nailed it and then it all comes crumbling back down, right? Yes, we have to get very good at dealing with this by ourselves, and how can we think, right, how do I get myself out of this rut? But there is no shame in reaching out for help. Many times I said, hey Rob, I need a bit of a helping hand here, I'm spiraling, right? Which is fine. Ultimately, I have to try and get through it by myself, but that's what we're here for. That's what the coaches are here for. We're to give you that helping hand, that guidance, and the reason we have the intensive courses, the reason we have, when you first come in for calls, where you may get a 6-pack or a 10-pack or whatever, is to get the foundations in play, to keep setbacks at bay. Yes, but when that does happen, and it's inevitable, a setback will happen, right? It's like someone being sober from alcohol for 3 months. They're bound to have a setback, right? They might not, but they're bound. In the likelihood, and you look at the realism here, you're probably going to have a setback, especially around bigger times. Maybe, I don't know, celebrations when the urge to drink might be particularly high, right? The temptation to indulge in a behaviour might be very high, and that's what will happen to us. So let's say you've had 3 months of doing well and 3 months of feeling relatively calm. You're going to have that OCD, oh, do I avoid this? Do I do this compulsion just to make sure I stay in this peaceful state? Do I just check for an internal feeling here? Do I just cling on to this? Do I maybe avoid taking that risk here? Do I maybe put that thing off because I can't stand OCD coming back? It can't come back now. No way. Not for my grandmother's birthday. Not for Christmas coming up. No, not for this. No. And then you start looking, you start internally scanning for things, and then like a hawk, you're looking out, and then that is when it will rear its head. So there's no shame in reaching out and saying, hey, I need a bit of help here. But sorry, what I was saying there was, if you've been doing well for like 3 months, it's like, hey, you're gonna have that urge to go back to the compulsions to keep you safe, right? To keep you stuck in that, to keep you in that much calmer state. So it's easy for then the compulsions to ramp back up because you think it's going to keep you safe, but it actually doesn't. Right, so you've got to try and see it as sobriety. 3 months into sobriety, you're going to have all the urges, right? The compulsions are still going to be rife at times where you feel like, oh, I need to give into this compulsion. I need to just check this thing, right? I need to just avoid this. So that is totally to be expected. So no shame in reaching out for help. Okay, that's exactly what we're here for. Okay, it's finding that balance, right? Because I had to get very used to trying to deal with it by myself, but I didn't want to just suffer in silence and say nothing. Sometimes I said, hey, look, I need a helping hand here. And that's fine. There's no stigma there because look what you're dealing with. You're dealing with such a relentless mental health disorder that it's going to come back. It's going to bite at times. It's going to find a way in there. Okay, so we have to be very realistic as what we're dealing with and think, right, how do I stay on track? How do I know and understand that OCD will most likely come back? But what can I do? What is the best way for me to deal with this, right? And that's what we're here to guide you through. And ultimately that comes with time and experience. And like I say, persistence with constantly applying the tools. When you learn from each setback, you learn from each false dawn, you learn from each wobble. That's what it's here for. That is why it's a journey. This is why it's a process, right? You don't just have one wobble and then never overcome that for the rest of your life. Each wobble, each trigger, each setback, each false dawn is a learning curve. It's a moment where you learn, right? It's like when, if you're triggered by something, you view that as a great chance to break down a perspective. Not in the moment, but later on it shows you, hey, the reason that triggered you is because obviously there's something here that you still can't accept. There's something here that your beliefs are quite faulty with. So you've got to try and change that mindset to, when I am having a wobble, it's going to help me in the long run. It's a blessing in disguise. I know how intense the symptoms get. Trust me, I completely understand. I've dealt with severe chronic OCD myself. I've lived and breathed it. So I know exactly how that feels. And it's hard to remember that when you're suffering, when you're stuck in a spiral. It's almost impossible to remember that. But you've got to think, right, let's let the symptoms pass. Let's let time pass. Let's float. And I know this is a blessing in disguise because it's going to teach me so much with where I need to work on with my avoidance, with my compulsions, my perspectives, my beliefs, my fears, or whatever, okay? Because each setback that I had, each wobble that I had, each false dawn that I had propelled me further on in my recovery journey. It took me up to the next level, if you wish, okay? It was like that leap that I needed because it showed me, hey, Sam, you still need work here, you still need to get better at this, but there was no rush, there was no time frame, there was no deadline, because then you tune up the internal pressure and then you put that internal gun to your head and say, you need to get better right now, you must not have a false dawn, you must not wobble, you must not have a setback, you should have it all nailed down by now. No, that isn't going to work, that's going to be very detrimental for you, okay? So there's no shame in having a setback. There's no shame in reaching out for help, but knowing that, hey, this is going to teach me so much, and trying not to completely get deflated and defeated and then go into a rut because you're having a bit of a wobble. It's all part of the journey. It's all part of the process, and there is no shame in reaching out for that extra hand to help guide you through it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, please leave a thumbs up. If you're interested in one-to-one coaching calls, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com and you can get in touch with us, and we will book you in as soon as we can. So you've got me, Sam, you've got Rob, founder of OCD Recovery, you've got Nick, Momin, Gemma, and Elliot, all doing coaching calls. So email Phil, and we will book you in as soon as we possibly can on our schedules. Anyway, take care, guys, and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.